Whereas today more than 4 million inhabitants live in the capital, and with an annual growth rate of 3.8%, there will be around 6 million inhabitants by the year 2030. Due to this development, the project intends to valorize waste in megacities or fast-growing cities which do not have the means for huge investments in capital-intensive waste treatment and processing facilities. Beside the idea of recycling and closed material cycles, or the so-called circular economy, it is of utmost interest to create safe and reliable jobs and income.
You have to deal every year with around 100,000 people coming to the city, and those people need additional infrastructure to live. They need jobs, they need disposal structures, supply structures, and that creates one of the biggest problems of the city. Addis Ababa produces right now per day around 1,000 tons of waste. If we go into the composition of the waste, around 500 tons of it are organic materials.
The city is very highly expanding, too much houses are built. Land is getting land for disposal as usual, is not going to be easy. It is not going to be available. So I think the management of the city administration is trying to think seriously.
We have the resource. I heard, more than 70% of the waste stuffs in Addis, it can be recycled. It means the waste is not a waste. I mean, who said it's a waste? Waste is money for me. We can get money.
Right now, around 80% of the solid waste produced is collected. The remaining waste is dumped on open spaces or drains. The quantity and quality of waste generated is predominantly depending on the socio-economic status of the households. In general, more than 2/3 of the waste can be reused or recycled. The waste can be collected commingled. That means there is no separation at household level. Alternatively, the households are practicing separation at source. This means the households are sorting the waste into different fractions. The separately collected waste is fed into recycling processes. Recycling is a process to convert wastes into secondary raw material and refinement into new products. Organic waste treatment converts organic matter into valuable products by means of different treatment options. As the organic materials are the biggest portion of the waste, the IGNIS project works intensively on this topic and applies composting, an aerobic process to convert biodegradable fraction of waste to compost, biogas production or anaerobic digestion, where organic matter is stabilized as a biogas slurry and the biogas, which contains high concentrations of methane and carbon dioxide, is produced. Charcoal production through pyrolysis, where lignite-containing materials such as tree cutting, flower stems, nutshells, etc. go through a thermal decomposition process to generate pyrolysis gas and coke. MBPT covers a range of technologies to deal with residual municipal waste. In an MBPT facility, the waste goes through some sort of biological and mechanical processes. MBPT aims to reducing the volume and the emissions of the waste. Incineration is a more sophisticated and more expensive alternative to MBPT. It is mainly used for stabilizing the wastes, which means to mineralize them. The resulting inert residues can be landfilled and nearly all potential emissions to the environment can be avoided. The heat recovery and potential energy production is a byproduct of the process, but considering all the expenses for the technology, flue gas treatment and the maintenance, incineration is a waste treatment solution at great costs.
For the overall planning of the waste management system in Addis Ababa, it is essential to know all the basis parameters, the basis values like waste composition or waste characterization. We try to develop a simulation tool which makes it easy for the city administration or the city specialists to identify suitable scenario for the further development of the waste management system, to find out what might be the future solutions. The idea of IGNIS is to see the waste management system as a resource system.
The generation rate of the organic waste in Addis Ababa is more than 60%. Therefore, we have to change this organic waste to compost. Otherwise, it will be dumped in dumping site and generates methane gas that contributes for climate change as well as for our environment becomes very dirty.
We have to think about solutions which might be smaller, which might be decentralized, considering the waste at the place where it originates, where it is produced. We have one value chain from the collection to the selling of the compost. We will train those groups to valorize the whole chain.
But now we are collecting the wastes from each householders. Daily, we are take the weight of the compostable and the non-compostable things. We are bringing these composters to these compostable houses, and they again sorting on these tables. One of our objective is to protect the environment and also to make the workers for unemployment groups.
Within the project, we also analyze the transferability of our results, of our methodologies, of our processes. For example, the transfer of the composting and separate collection from Addis Ababa to Nairobi.
If you look at the waste management situation in Nairobi, out of 3.5 million inhabitants, 2.5 million can't afford waste collection services.
I understand they have a project called the Taka Solutions, and actually, just as the name implies, they are so, because they have given the solutions of the Taka.
Taka Solutions is a waste management enterprise in Nairobi, and Taka means waste in Kiswahili.
They have improved the cleanliness of the market, and we are so happy. We are quite happy with these people because the solution has been found.
So here you can see our pilot organic waste composting plant, which we've built in the lower income area of Kangemi. The facility is pretty much exactly the same as the ones built in Ethiopia and is modeled on those. Try to replicate exactly the same things and then try to scaling it. So what Taka Solutions is doing is making waste collection completely sustainable on a private sector basis. So there's no subsidies or no support from the government side needed to sustain our waste collection services.
The company is actually searching for a new land and is drawing up the business plan for the increase from an input of 5 tons per day to around 40 tons per day.
The administration now understands the problem of this organic waste, and they have trying their own many steps.
An important issue of waste management strategies is to implement a stable and sustainable and an economical sound market structure for secondary raw materials. Therefore, we have done a lot of analysis and market studies to see in which way the market is working and to evaluate the economical aspects based on really existing and running pilot projects.
People in the waste management are getting aware of the problem associated with waste. We are advocating for source separation. If source separation take root, definitely much of this can be recycled or taken as a resource, as a compost and input for biogas production.
The biogas project is located at the dormitory and canteen of the AIT, the Institute of Technology in Addis Ababa.
We work in area of the biogas pilot plant, which is making use of food leftover kitchen waste as an input and generating biogas. So we are looking at this cost implication, what economic advantage it is giving to the institute or the cafeteria which is making use of it.
We try to run this whole plant in a circle, which means we are taking the waste from the kitchen, turning it into gas, and the gas is then delivered into the kitchen so that they can use it for cooking or hot water production.
We have seen that the technicians and the people working at the biogas facility really learned how to operate it and also how to maintain it. And at the moment, they are operating the facility completely by their own. The Ignis biogas facility is the only biogas facility in Ethiopia, or maybe also in Africa, which is operating very well and which is on a more technically sophisticated level.
When we started with the Ignis project, we were interested in income generating activities, also in the context of biolatrines.
I intended to make a modern biolatrine project in Minilik High School, which is intended to join the women's toilets with the biogas plant, which in turn to connect with the school's biology laboratory and that of the school's canteen.
When we went on site, we found out that most of the existing biolatrines are no more functioning, maybe due to lack in manuals or other problems. We decided to rehabilitate one of those biolatrines at Menelik School, which is in terrible conditions right now. And after rehabilitation, the girls are using it now and are happy to have it.
The project improves a lot here, including beautification, sanitation, and also access to all latrine users. So it doesn't discriminate only the normal ladies. So I think now hopefully this project will bring a lot.
To find out the planning parameters on how to utilize the sludge from the biogas facility in order to rehabilitate the slope, there are many parameters necessary to know. We did several trials, several tests on sites to analyze the soil fertility. The idea behind this is to use organic material generated in the waste to bring it back to the origin.
With the background of the highly eroded hill slopes of Addis Ababa, our idea was to put them or to protect them from further erosion.
It is written that the jatropha is growing until, I think, 1,500 meters altitude. Right now we are producing seedlings in Addis at an altitude of 2,300, 500 meters, and we will grow them in our slopes.
In the near future, we will see most degraded areas of Addis will be rehabilitated, and as well other plants being grown in association with jatropha. So we'll see better place of Addis in the future.
If there is adequate legal framework and the jatropha does not compete with food production, it could be a sustainable and CO2 neutral method for income generation and energy production in arid areas in Ethiopia and other emerging countries.
In Addis Ababa we have a market for charcoal, therefore it is interesting to use parts of the organic materials for the production of charcoal.
It's a long process to really sustain new solutions, and for this purpose we integrate the pilot project partners in the developing work steps. Since dust emissions during grinding procedures is the major occupational safety and health problems, we started to discuss potential solutions with the wise women to overcome these problems and to start by process or equipment re-engineering.
The first improvement was to create a hood for the grinder. But this was not enough, and therefore we decided to go into the development of new machinery. We produced locally a grinder and a briquetting machine and tested it. There's still room left for improvement as the machinery is not exactly fitting to the needs we have or the needs the women have.
The Ignis project as a whole is a very important project for Ethiopia because it is a program which is mixing research and action.
The Ignis approach should become an entry to the overall waste management system planned by the city.
Our project was the starting.
This kind of collaboration between the south and the north is very supportive, in technology transfer, in know-how transfer.
Train the people for the specific technologies and to store and to file all the know-how which is generated within the project within the pilot projects, within our discussion with the city, within the planning, within the simulation processes.
So it has to be encouraged. That is what I am saying. Although this Ignis is going to expire, the project is going to expire soon, the partner, the network built will go on.
It is not only well for Addis, so it should be also transferable for the African context, for example. As you know, Addis Ababa is the capital of Africa, and the idea is to spread out the information.